What's going on, guys? Here's a quick video of how to get the best performance out of the hardware that you have in your computer, especially since games are getting more demanding with next generation coming out with the S and X for Xbox and the PS5. Now, there's also lots of new graphics card coming out from NVIDIA and AMD, but maybe you guys don't want to upgrade your PC, but yet you want to still be able to play those next generation consoles without having to necessarily buy new hardware. This is a quick and free benchmark that goes through a whole bunch of performances on your entire PC for gaming, desktop, and workstation. So I'll have the link of this benchmark in the description. It's fairly simple. You don't even have to install the application, the .exe that you'll download. It just runs right away. And it'll pop up and it'll start running. And so here are the results of everything. Well, my CPU's overclocked, and it's going to stay at the same speed. So that's locked, and but we're going to be talking about the graphics. So right here I have the NVIDIA RTX 2070, and this is straight out of box, no temperature control, no power limit, like raising the power limit, or a custom fan curve. And so right here for gaming we got 90%, and for the bench itself 107%. FPS is here 369. And also for DirectX 10, 320. And it says it's performing below potential. So depending on the silicon that you may get from the manufacturer, such as NVIDIA, or if you got from like MSI or EVGA, you may not get the best auto default overclock for the card, and sometimes it just needs a little push. And so these are the defaults. So I'll bring up the program that I use to overclock my graphics card, and depending on your knowledge will depend on how far you could get and how comfortable you are to get more performance. So this is pretty much what I ran default. Nothing on the memory, nothing on the GPU, no voltage, power limit capped at 100, and it's a regular auto fan curve. So if I click boost lock, that's pretty much about what's going to max boost clock on default values. But it also depends on how hot the graphics card gets. So 1860 on the core, 7000 on the memory, and that's what these settings got. Now let me show you the results when all you do is just raise the power limit. So if we look here, now we went up to 92%, 84, 91. Now the graphics, this was 107, now it's 109. So we went up a little bit in score. Obviously it still says performing below potential. Now we went from, I believe, what was it, 49 percentile? No, 48th percentile up to 46, which that's better. So, oh no, yeah, 59. So, but they also still give you a GPU overclocking guide right here if you want to go a little bit further, in which I'll show you. Pretty much this was the first overclock I tried, and it got pretty close to stable. It's nothing crazy, but it's a little something extra. So I have that saved on here in profile too. So I just threw an extra 1000 on the memory, 100 on the core, and I also raised the power limits, the temperature limit, and also gave it a custom fan curve, which is right here. So if it's not doing a lot of work, it'll most likely be at idle, and once it starts picking up the temperature, it will exponentially raise the fan speed to try to keep it cooler to stay in a higher GPU spin. Because even though you overclocked it, it will not get to that speed without being under a certain temperature. And so if we now click the boost lock here, now we're up to 1950 on the GPU and 8000 on the memory. I would run all the tests fresh, but it's going to take a long time and the video will be exponentially longer. And so with that type of overclock, where now you've added extra on the memory and the GPU and the custom fan curve, now we got up to 97, 83, 97 again. Now if we come down to the graphics card, now it says performing way above expectations, 94th percentile with 116 bench, 116% bench. So at the very peak of the average score of this type of graphics card. Remember, it's testing you with other well, in my case, a 2070. Whatever card you have, it will test you against that. Now we're at 392 and 348. Now, if you want to go even further, this is going to take more time. Your computer, not your entire computer, but your graphics card may crash. Basically, the program will shut down. Your monitor may turn black. It's basically just going to, put on, pretty much just reset the graphics card. It'll turn back on. You'll get visuals. It doesn't take that long. Unlike, if you overclock a CPU and it crashes, your entire computer has to shut down and reboot. Graphics card usually just closes off the program, or the screen may stutter a little bit. So my furthest overclock I could max out my silicon with was this one. So 200 on the core, and if you notice, I actually bumped back off the memory. Actually, no, I kept the memory the same. I tried to get the memory higher with the core clock, but it wouldn't go any higher. I added a little bit more voltage, just for a little kick for the core, and obviously the power settings are maxed out, and also the custom fan curve. And if you click here on boost, now the max clock will go to is 2055 and still 8000 on the memory, and that got me this result here. 100% on gaming, 84 on desktop, because again, I mean, when you're doing desktop stuff, it doesn't use much graphics. And then the workstation is at 101%, and that brings us here at 99th percentile performance for this graphics card, and 120 is the highest in graphics percentage. If you look here, graphics, 120 is an outstanding 3D score. It's the bee's knees. The GPU could handle almost all 3D games at a very high resolution and ultra details. So that's, basically I didn't have to pay anything. This software or any other overclocking software is free. So if you have an RTX 2070, this is not the Founders Edition, this is the MSI Edition. If you want to try this overclock here, it may be stable, it may be not, it may not be. So there you go. There's three different ways of trying to getting a little bit more performance out of your graphics card. So no matter if you just want to max out the power slider and make a custom fan curve, or if you want to start tinkering and adding a couple hundred on the memory and maybe go from the 10s, 10 and up on the core clock and see how far you could go before the card starts crashing. If you have any concerns or questions, put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. But it's pretty simple, guys. There's really nothing wrong you could do. The GPU will not let it die. If it gets too hot, it will ramp the core clocks and the memory down, or it will just simply crash. So good luck and see what you get for free.